You're such an asshole.
Hey everybody, the old captain here. I'm tired. I need my coffee. Espresso. We have quite a long recording request ahead of us because it's complicated. So go ahead, strap yourselves in there, economists. We're going to learn a lot about economics. Carl writes, hello, Aaron. I got a friend who annoys the fuck out of me. He's a diehard Obama and Hillary fanboy. He's also an expert on everything he's fed and agrees with mainstream media. He gets most of his bullshit from the Huffington Post. I was hoping you could set him straight for me. I don't think I could set him straight. I think I have a video called Why You Can't Argue with Liberals, or a post about it. But you can't argue with people who have beliefs. And that's what that is. There's no empiricism, there's no logic, it's belief. So, I mean, you're going to be just as lucky as getting a radical Muslim or a born-again Christian to be rationalized and reasoned with. Here's the deal. I'm an engineer. I don't know a damn thing about economics, banking, finance, etc. Except that borrowed money costs more than earned money, technically. He's a tech recruiter suffering from verbal diarrhea. He scours the net all day consuming bullshit. I spend my time working as a slave for corporate America. Well, he's smarter than you in that regard. His most recent pontification is copied below from an email. It's a commentary to this link. Now, he links to this link. And this is... We got to go through this article written by Mike Norman. In part because it's going to show you what a purist modern monetary theorist looks like. If you guys want to get that much level into economics. But we need to understand what this article says, why it is hands down. I'm not joking. This is the worst written piece of economic shit I've ever. You can't even call this economics. This is just, it's outright lies. I looked at the guy who wrote this. He's got like 30 years in Wall Street. He's got a master's in economics. Something like, let's see, this might be some. You should be ashamed. Just ashamed of not even just the outright lies, but poor writing too. You could have maybe made a better argument for it. This is like an 8th grader wrote this. The government debt doesn't matter because reasons. I mean, that is what the level of this article is like. But it also has now caused a kerfuffle on the interwebs. And so far, in part, the drama reasons, in part because this is such a horribly written article and it's false. And then so many people are glomming onto it because it tells them what they want to hear. And then now it's causing not only my client, but other people confused. Like, how is this right? So let the old captain explain it here to you. And then we'll get to your buddy and your particular issue. So we're all going to learn a lot about economics. This is written by Mike Norman. The title is The National Debt. Why fret over something that doesn't exist? See, right off the bat. Oh, it doesn't exist. See, it doesn't exist. Zimbabwe, Argentina, Russia. That was all BS. That was made up. The public is lied to when it comes to the so-called national debt. They're clueless about it, as are most, if not all, of our lawmakers. First off, there is no debt. See? Problem solved. Mike Norman says there's no debt, so we don't have to worry about it. And this is the one paragraph I spent more time on than the rest of it because I was trying to figure out, I thought, hey, he's got 30 years experience, he's got a master's, he got to know what he's talking about. I must be missing something. And the more and more then I read the rest, I'm like, this guy's just lying and doesn't know what he's talking about. Or he's really, like in the olden days, do you remember the .com days where they're trying to sell you something and you're trying to figure out, how does this .com make money? What are you talking about? And then the investment bankers, the sales guys would say, well, if you can't understand it, I guess it's a little, I understand it's a little bit. And then there was an amazing .com crash. That's exactly what this smells like, and that's exactly what this is. And that's why I was like, because I made the erroneous assumption he was being intellectually honest. He had a point. This is just verbal diarrhea that was talked over and glommed over. So I'm going to try and interpret. And at any time, Mike, you can comment down below. Let me know exactly what you were saying, but this is either the worst written paragraph in all of economics, or you're just lying to people right now. First off, there is no debt. The debt is dollars. The government spent $20 trillion more than it took away in taxes over the last 240 years, and those dollars held by the non-government comprise a big portion of non-government's wealth. Nothing is owned. It is owed by us, the people. So what I'm thinking he's saying, if there is a point he's making the old MMT Keynesian argument that, well, see, it's just savings. Another man's junk is another man's treasure. All the stupid ignoramuses look at the government debt and say, oh, it's horrible. But you see, somebody owns that debt, and it's us. And therefore, it's good because their savings, that's their investment, that's their wealth. It's like, yeah, I could see that, and he would be right if this was normal, if this was sane world, all right? But it's not. Especially post the financial crisis, the United States government and its debt has served a much different role than a safe haven investment. We're not talking like this is, you're the little kid and your grandpa got you your double E series savings bond. Here you go, little Jimmy. Oh, there you go. Oh, thanks, Dad. $100 bond. That'll be worth $100 in 327 years. We're not talking that. The vast majority of the debt is not held for investment or wealth purposes. Today it is held for asset protection, for purchasing power saving purposes. That's what it is. The United States government, I'm not going to go into the details. You can look up my video, if you don't understand reserve currencies, called Why the Economy Hasn't Collapsed Yet. The United States government has the world's reserve currency. All right? And right now, because of slowing economic growth, not to mention a lot of other countries have shittier economics than we do, they are buying U.S. dollars. Now, he is right in this article, like, well, why would you just buy U.S. dollars when you can invest it in U.S. Treasuries and earn a couple interest points on it? That's true. But understand the reason why people are buying U.S. Government securities. It's not because they think it's a good investment. It's because they're just trying to hide their money. And you notice how they're talking about, maybe this will help you understand negative interest rates, where governments are like, no, we're not, you're going to pay us to store your money. Well, that's typically how it used to work in the olden days. You would go to a bank or a vault, or you could even a Federal Reserve. Here's my money, and we're talking like Goldsmith days. They're like, what? I'm just going to store this for you for free. I'm providing you a service. I want a little bit of your gold here. I want a percentage. You're going to pay me. And that's what's happening today. People are not like, oh, the U.S. government is a great credit risk. Remember, I was a credit analyst. If I look at the fundamentals of the federal government, it's not a fucking investment. People are like, oh shit, where do we put our money so it doesn't collapse? Well, the rest of the world's economies pretty much suck. I mean, I know the United States has bad fundamentals, but fuck, look at Europe. China's got their own fucking massive debt bubble. Russia's corrupt as fuck. Brazil, hey, they finally got rid of the communist fucking former terrorists. Did you say, yeah, that's why I want my fucking money. So they're all, it's like, what did I liken it to? It's like being the girl in Casper, Wyoming with all of her teeth. You may have 5 other men's kids from 5 different fathers. You may have syphilis. You may have herpes. But you're pretty much still the hottest looking thing in Casper, Wyoming, because most of the women are ugly as hell in Casper, Wyoming, and there's a lot more men than there are women. So people are going, or another gal, I forgot who it was, she said, we're the last horse in the glue factory. That's basically what, our fundamentals suck, but it still sucks more. So that's why people are not investing, they're sheltering their money in the United States. Now, it's not even that good, because the United States, especially under Obama, has just printed up a fucking shit ton of money. Look at the monetary base, look at quantitative easing, look at M1, M2, whatever measure of money supply you'd like to look at. I think the monetary base has gone up over 350%. Since Obama's been here. Because just printing off money has always worked well in the past. And so our lenders, our creditors, people who have lent the United States federal government money are like, whoa, hey, wait a minute, are you going to just knock it off with that shit? And our spending has been so much. We have spent so much under Obama. And this is Obama. Don't act like, oh, well, it's the economy. No, we spent a shit ton of money. Just look at the federal budget. That's not war, by the way. You can, again, at any time, you can look at a federal budget and say, well, what we spend our money on is basically spending our money on buying votes and parasitic people. We are so prolific with our spending, like a soccer mom and a trophy wife, that a lot of our lenders are saying, whoa, hey, I'm not buying any more U.S. government debt. We're sick and tired of it. Even, what was it, China's finance minister says, oh, that's all you do is print and spend, print and spend. So who buys our debt if we need it? Thank God for the Federal Reserve. This is what happened. And this is not BS. You can look at it. I even pulled it up here, so I knew I had a little bit of numbers. The federal government wants to borrow more money. It can't raise the taxes either because it's politically inconvenient to do so and people would lose votes, or the economy's not growing enough that they can't tax the base enough without crashing the economy. So they got to go borrow it. Well, no one wants to lend them any more money. So who's going to go lend them the money? The Federal Reserve. Well, why would the Federal Reserve, what business is it of the Federal? Federal Reserve is not the U.S. government, technically. So why would the Federal Reserve want to borrow or lend money to the federal government? Well, because the Federal Reserve prints off the money. It doesn't really want to lend to the federal government. It's kind of more or less controlled by the federal government, and it says, yeah, we'll print off a ton of money and we'll buy you the bonds. So it's this cute little trick. The federal government will print off the Treasury, federal Treasury, not the Federal Reserve. The federal Treasury issues bonds. No one wants to buy the bonds on the market. You can look at when they have auctions and no one buys them. And then who's left to buy it? Nobody. Hey, Federal Reserve, print off the fucking money or this shit goes down fast. Federal Reserve prints off as much money as possible. That's why the monetary base goes up. That's why we have quantitative easing. And then the federal government sells the Federal Reserve, the U.S. Treasuries, the debt, government bonds. And the Federal Reserve gives the federal government money. And then the federal government gives all the welfare bums money. And Obama's wonderful. So if you look at the Federal Reserve balance sheet, it has one, and you look at what's happened to its assets it's purchased over time. I pulled it up here. I mean, in 2009, the Federal Reserve didn't hold any mortgage debts, and that was the purpose of the bailouts and TARP. It just basically had some federal securities for treasuries that it would use to trade on and off with different financial institutions, institutional investors, some other investable assets. But then ever since then, those two components, worthless mortgage-backed securities and worthless treasuries, have ballooned. So now, what is it? Looked like they had about 500 billion in treasuries before the collapse. And now we have, if I look at it correctly, this is 2014, so it's probably worse. We got about, probably about 2.5 trillion in federal government bonds, federal debt. And then mortgage-backed securities, that could be private, or it can also be the mortgages backed up by who? Sallie Mae and Freddie Mac, which is the federal government. All right, so even though those are private mortgages, not if they're guaranteed by the U.S. taxpayer. So basically what has happened is the federal government could not find enough people to lend it money, private investors who willingly gave it the money, so they just had the Federal Reserve go and put off $5 trillion to buy pretty much debts that no one else, mortgages, to lend to an unreliable, high-risk borrower because no one else would lend them money. And it's convenient they have the central bank, the Federal Reserve, to just print off cash. All right? So don't act, Mike. Please don't act. That's lie number one of Mike. Let me find it. Where do we go? That's lie number one here for my client, where Mike is lying. All right? It's not owned. It's not owed. It's owned. See? No. That implies that there's actual value there. All right? That implies that the intent was savings. This is people just panicking and trying not to lose any more money. And if you're telling me this borrower is so up shit crick that it has to have a central bank print off money because no one else wants to lend it money, all right, don't tell me that doesn't matter. We can play this game now. How can they get away with it? That's why you got to understand the world reserve currency. The problem is that ever so quickly, I told you this is going to be a long one. If you write bullshit like this, I mean, it takes forever to just basically explain each individual cell matter of fecal material. The reserve currency basically means that the world needs to have one currency that they can trust and denominate their contracts in. Like if you want to do business with Venezuela, you don't want their freaking boliviars. It's not pesos, it's boliviars. You want denominated in a stable currency, US dollars. You want oil to be purchased. It's got to be denominated in U.S. dollars. Or you're an investor overseas. You're going to build a company or you're going to build a facility in South Korea. I want it denominated in U.S. dollars because you're a U.S.-based company. So everyone wants to own dollars. That means that we now have more purchasing power. And what's happened in the United States is we could just print off a shit ton of money, which we did. And we don't see inflation at home because everybody overseas buys up our dollars. That's very, very, very briefly what's happening here. So that's how we can get away with it. So that explains why we can get away with it. Second, let me go to my notes here. Oh, and then there's the classical, like, it's owned, it's owed. I'd love Mike to just lend me a couple $1 million. And I say, well, see, there's no such thing as debt. It doesn't matter. And then then his second paragraph is there's nothing to pay back. Well, crap, Mike, lend me $10 million, man. Matter of fact, here's what I want you to do, Mike. You go borrow as much as you can from your bank. Go mortgage your house and everything you have. Lend me that money, and then I'll just say, fuck you. See, it's just simple logic where no matter what pretty words they put up, because I'm trying to give you the economic explanation as to why this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking. I guarantee he does know. He's purposely choosing not to, which makes you gotta really wonder if you want to trust this fella. But then there's simpler ways to do it, like, the debt doesn't matter. It's like, really? Well, then how come Zimbabwe isn't a super national power right now? So let's continue on with the economics. So this is the next paragraph. Second, there's nothing to pay back. Oh, thank heavens. I thought that was just funny money. The money was paid, ended up in someone's bank account, and it's now being held in the form of treasuries. What's a treasury? A treasury is $1. The only difference being it's $1 with a term duration. No. A treasury is not $1. Let's be very clear. This is line number 3, 4, I don't know what we're on. A treasury is a contract. It is an agreement on how dollars are going to be exchanged. It is not dollars. Now, it's denominated in dollars, but it is not dollars. It is a contract. It is debt. I have lent you X number of dollars. You will now pay me back X number of dollars plus some interest. All right? So let's not get tripped up on technicalities. It's just dollars. Why would people hold dollars in the form of treasuries? To earn some interest. That's all. I agree, yeah. It's like saying, why would you put your money in a savings account as opposed to a checking account? Same reason, to earn interest. If you want it back in your checking account, you tell the bank and it switches it back from your savings account to your checking account. Now here, this is not analogous. This is a lie again. This is not like you give your money to the government and it says, oh, would you like your money back? Well, we'll just put it in your checking account. No, because if your money's in the checking account, you still lent it to the bank. The bank still has it. It's not until you go to the bank and actually cash it out, see? And then you actually get paid, where the bank has to go and say, oh shit, we got to find some cash. And that's when we want to go and get cashed out by the federal government, you get your bond, that means there's actually got to be cash. And that means the government has either got to take somebody else's money that it's owed to, or it's got to print some more off at the Federal Reserve. I think that would be paid back. Okay. Yeah, so he is right in the, I apologize for being so literal, but he's just written this so poorly. Yes, people will go ahead and invest their money in treasuries because that's where, not because they necessarily want to, but because it's a safe haven. Second, the Federal Reserve is not an investor. It's basically the life support system for the federal government. And yeah, it may get some interest. It may make some money off of securities. But this analogy, it's like, well, we just put it into your checking account. No, it's not like that. Okay. My concern is the federal government has to have that money. Now, thankfully, it can have that money. Either it taxes people, it issues new debt, and gets somebody, in other words, they get somebody else's money to pay you off. It's just like a Ponzi scheme. We get new investors' money to pay off the old. Or in the case of the federal government, because we have the Federal Reserve, the life support machine, it can print off more, right? So it's not, your bank can't do that, right? So this is not the same. That's how it works with the federal government. 2, it pays back holders of treasuries all the time. That's called a redemption, and when treasuries are redeemed, the government simply instructs its bank, the Federal Reserve, to take back the securities and credit the individuals or the firms or the foreign governments or whomever's bank account and viola. It happens. Paid back. In fact, it happens so regularly and on such a big scale that it'll totally blow your mind. And this is where this son of a bitch, lying because you're evil, I understand. I respect evil people because they're smart. And maybe if you're a misanthrope, I could see where you want to become a villain. Lying because you don't know any better, I can also understand that. That's stupid. But this guy knows exactly what he's doing, and I'll continue on here. All right? It's going to totally blow your mind. I'm about to give you some numbers, all right? Everybody ready? You got your cup of coffee, your martini? Mind you, these are not numbers I made up or to which have some kind of top secret access, nor is this inside information that I'm exposing. See, he's got such a build-up to it, and then when you actually look it up, you're like, wait a minute, that's it? Rather, these are publicly available figures that you can get free right off the U.S. Treasury Department's website. The resource is called the Daily Treasury Statement, and it's really a fascinating document. Yes, okay, get to it, Mike. It is posted daily on the Treasury's website, and it's literally like looking at a checkbook of the federal government. Yes, we know. Are you going to show it now, Mike? Just like your checkbook, it has all the deposits and all the withdrawals, among other things. You can see everything, every line item of spending withdrawals and every item of revenue deposits that runs through the government's accounts daily, monthly, and yearly. On this document, there's a table 3A, that gives all the redemption of bills, notes, bonds, and other securities the government redeems, pays back every day, month, and year. If you go to the last statement of the fiscal year, September 30th, and you scroll down to that table I just gave you, Table 3A, you'll see the government redeemed and paid back, quote, paid back, $94.2 trillion in 1 year! Exclamation point! If you remember Victor Borga. I put a screenshot below. Please note all figures on the daily Treasury statements are in millions, so don't come back to me and say it was only 94.2 million. If that's the level of people you're arguing with, Mike, that's rookie league. It's 94.2 million. That's 94.2 trillion. I'm glad you explained that for the liberal arts majors because they actually don't know the difference between a billion and a trillion. See the image below. 94.2 trillion in a single year, and nobody knew about this. Furthermore, the world didn't fall apart, the dollar didn't collapse, interest rates didn't spike, we had no inflation, and everything was fine. Let's stop there. Right there, Mike. Right there. You're a lying, misleading sack of shit. Because you purposely cherry-picked this data. He did. So I went to this site. It's 94.2 trillion. And I'm such a good economist, I'm like, wait a minute. There's only $20 trillion in national debt right now. How did the federal government have redemptions pay off 94.2 trillion? So my mind went to Federal Reserve. I'm like, how did the Federal Reserve pay off 94.2 trillion when there's only 20 trillion in national debt outstanding? I said, it's got to be one of two things. Either this is the Federal Open Market operations, or the actual central banking the bank does, where banks, again, how exciting you want to have an economics lesson on central banking and the Federal Reserve. But as institutional investors switch in and out between treasuries and cash, each transaction, the debt doesn't change. The debt is the same amount. There's still 20 trillion in debt. It's just how many times has it swapped hands, if that makes any sense, between the central bank, the Federal Reserve, and institutional investors. So I'm thinking like, but that's not a redemption. Redemption is actually paying it off. The other one, because I'm a great economist, I'm like, wait a minute. The federal government, there's different maturities, meaning different types of government debts, different types of government bonds mature at different times. And yeah, you have your 10 and 20-year notes or whatever, but there's T-bills. T-bills have very frequent maturities, and you have to constantly refinance that. And so I was like, is the shortest T-bill 30 days? I'm thinking like, well, yeah, if you got to refinance a couple trillion every month, that would add up and do the math. So I went up, it's not every 30 days. They have a 30, but they do it by weeks. There's a 4-week, a 26-week, 4, 13, and 26. Basically a month, a month, 3 months. There's very short maturities where, you have 4 different levels of a year or less tranches of federal T-bills that have to be refinanced either every 4 weeks, every 13 weeks, every 26. So 4 weeks, that's a month, that's 13, because it's just shy of a month. So you have to refinance that 13 times. The month, you have to refinance that 12 times. You have to refinance the bi-monthly 6 times. So you have to refinance. That's where your 94 trillion comes in. And I tried for the life of me last night to find out how big the T-bill market was, these short-term treasuries, these short-term debts. Couldn't find it for some reason. I could find interest rates. But I almost guarantee it, that's where it is. That's where this 94.2 trillion came from. So in other words, to convert this down to layman's terms, let's say I borrow money from Bob. I borrowed $10,000 to go buy myself a truck. And Bob says, well, I want it paid back. It's January 1. He says, I want it paid back by the end of the month. I'm like, all right, Bob. So I borrowed $10,000 from Bob. The end of January is about to come up. And I don't have Bob's money because I'm a bad credit risk like the federal government. I'm like, oh shit, I got to pay back Bob. Hey, Bill. Bill says, yeah, what do you want, Claire? You no good lout. And I said, can I borrow $10,000? Why would I lend you $10,000? Hey, come on. Here's the truck. I'll give you the deed. You can have it as collateral. Oh, fine. So then Bill lends me $10,000. I take that $10,000. I pay off Bob. Now, according to Mike, oh my God, look, Aaron just paid off $10,000. Yeah, but I simply borrowed more money to pay off my current, it's the same $10,000. And then the next month, oh gosh, I got to pay off Bill. I go, well, God, I already borrowed from Bob and Bill. Who am I going to? Amy! Amy's like, what do you want, Clary, you no good lout? I'm like, hey, can you lend me $10,000? Because I never actually want to pay this back. I just want to have free money for the rest of my life until I die. She's like, oh, okay, fine, I'll lend you $10,000 because reasons. and I take Amy's $10,000 and I pay off Bill. All right? Now, Mike would say, oh my God, Aaron Clary paid off $20,000, even though I've never borrowed more than 10. It's the same. It's like when you use one credit card to pay off the other. That's exactly this. And this disingenuous, this dishonest, this lying, I can't call him a fool, because this proves to me he's evil. He knows exactly what he's doing. This purposely lying fool, this propagandist, this politician, is trying to talk over here. Look, we paid off $94 trillion. Oh my God, ner. That's his argument. $94.2 trillion, ner. And I'm like, then you find out, no, you're just paying off multiple times throughout the year the same debt. So this blatantly dishonest, like, look at this huge number compared to our debt, no problem. And he says it. There is the proof right in front of our noses that debt is meaningless. No, this is the sign of a junkie. This is a sign of somebody with financial problems where you can't permanently pay off your debt and you're usually you only using one credit card to pay off the other and constantly cycling and playing that game. That's exactly what's going on here. And I can't believe he's that stupid. He can't be. He can't be. For my client, I'm talking. This guy cannot be that stupid, not with 30 years experience and he's got a master's in economics. Or he's focused on the Wall Street investment side and then just dipped his toe and somebody got a hold of him with Keynesian theory. Say, here, look, see that? Which I wouldn't doubt because I look at the central bankers, I look at Yellen and Bernanke and these guys. They actually believe it. They actually swallow the Kool-Aid on this modern monetary theory. So maybe he's a true believer. But neither here nor there, this person is not based in the real world. What he's espousing here is, well, it's true, but this doesn't address anything about the federal government debt not being important. And it doesn't exist. I mean, the canard, the common sense, like, oh, it just doesn't exist. Well. It's time we stop fretting over this. Oh, wait, here it is. This is the proof right there in front of our noses that the debt is meaningless. It's just a bunch of bookkeeping entries. Oh, that's all. That's all it is. Keystrokes. It's time we stop fretting over this. People need to educate themselves about what this debt is. Yeah, including you, Mike, if you believe this. And how they are being manipulated and propagandized about it. Wouldn't that be awesome? This guy has all this experience. He's an old baby boomer. You know baby boomers. They're like, come on, baby, light my fire. They think they're smart. Wouldn't it be funny that he's the one that's been propagandized? He doesn't realize it yet. That'd be hilarious. That'd be awesome. And I wouldn't doubt it. I just wouldn't doubt it. The debt is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. You got what? Herpes? That's not a bad thing. No, you've been propagandized to think herpes is bad. No, that's just the right-wing media and Peter Schiff telling you that. No, herpes is great. No, it's an extra bit of life that you are supporting now. That is not a bad thing. It's an asset of the non-government. No, it's not an asset. However, ignorant, cynical, corrupt, dogmatic, and self-serving groups like the Pete Peterson Foundation and organizations like Fix the Debt are in business of keeping Americans misinformed and getting them to act against their own interests. How the fuck you are? Dude, right there, Mike. Right there. You're a liar. You were bought and sold. Somebody bought and sold you. Since when in the history of ever has paying off debt been a bad thing? This is another instance where we can set aside the economic argument. Do you understand that this is somebody lying to you? This is a charlatan. This is a shyster. When someone says, "Oh, it's ignorant, cynical, corrupt, and dogmatic, and self-serving to pay off debt." I'm sorry. Are you MasterCard? Are you Visa? I don't know. I wouldn't trust my children with this guy, that's for sure. And I certainly would trust the economy with them. But yeah, to my client, Carl, yeah, there's a reason your bullshit detector went off, because he is lying. I mean, this is like, you might as well be telling me big is beautiful. I mean, the same hairs on the back of my neck goes up when I hear a fat woman say, big is beautiful. You're just closed-minded and shallow for not liking my nice fat friend. This is the same thing with what's his name? I forget. Doesn't matter. All right. So let's go through a couple more arguments here. Oh, one other thing that, go to old Mike, I found it, about this $94.2 trillion. He forgot to, while he points out, look, the federal government paid off $94.2 trillion. Well, I went to the site and I looked it up. Like, yeah, he's right. They did pay off 94.2 trillion and multi-maturing under a year securities. You know what he forgot to mention? It was the amount that they issued, and they issued 95.6 trillion. That's 1.4 trillion more than they paid off. So it wouldn't even be like that analogy I had before, where Bill lends me $1,000 to buy the truck, then Bob lends me $10,000 to buy the truck. Bill lends me $10,000 to pay off Bill. Amy lends me $10,000 to pay off Bob. It would be Bill lent me $10,000. I borrowed $11,000 from Bill to pay off Bob, and then I bought off $12,000 to pay off Bill, and I just kept getting more and more debt. I don't know how much. Okay, have I satisfied you, Carl? Have I explained to you economically? Have I explained to the audience why this guy is lying? Have I explained it to you? Have I proven it to you? Okay, I'm going to put this all up on my blog because, frankly, this Mike guy cannot just go unanswered. It just cannot happen. What's really sad is I'll link to he did a video. He got his tits in a bundle. His panties were in a bundle. He did a video because everybody, he took the comments down because he's a coward. That's another reason, that's another explanation why I don't think he's legit. I really don't know. I don't think know what he's talking about. But he did a video, and all it was, hey, you're fucking stupid. Hey, you're fucking stupid. He's an Italian. Bippity boppity boppity boopy, spaghetti and meatball. Hey, you're fucking stupid. And that was his response to people's arguments. And I would have loved to see their arguments. And probably I'm stupid because this response I did with data, facts, logic, and statistics and reality, this is probably stupid too. What's really sad is how the sheep, kind of like your buddy, just swallowed it whole on the comments section. So if you want, I'll link to his YouTube video below. And it's almost childish. It is like a millennial, like, this guy just blew my argument out of the water. I'm just going to call him stupid, or he has a small penis, or something like that, or he has mommy issues. You know, the high-level millennial arguments coming from an aging baby boomer. Anyway, so yeah, I think he knows. I don't know what. Maybe he got a master's in arts and economics, not an actual master's of science. Like, he doesn't have the math behind him. But he got exposed, and now he's running for cover as the fraud and the charlatan that he is. So that answer. Now, if all this economics was over your head, very confusing, and your head hurts, which I understand, let's kind of do some let's point out a couple more things. I want to make a couple more points, in part to explain it to you guys more simply, backdoor explanation, and then to preemptively strike the commentary that's going to come from the left, because if you look at, he's just got blind followers. He's got a bunch of born-again Christians following him, who just, yeah, man, I mean, we're literally, you can't reason people into things that they weren't reasoned into. It's like, what? Excuse me, this is the reverse. So there's a lot of those zombie mindless robots in there. All right. Debt does inevitably matter. Let's just put it this way. The federal government can get away with this because as long as it can pay the current lenders off with either new borrowed money, newly taxed money, or newly printed money, those current borrowers will be fine. And as most borrowers right now, it's not like these institutional investors they're not smart. They know the federal government is kind of a bad risk. They're once again there using the dollar more as a hedge or a commodity, a safe haven of value. All right, but debt will inevitably matter because it does have to be paid off with real cash. You can't just keep borrowing more and more and more, because if you borrow to the point that your debt gets so high that the slightest bit of interest now makes it that you can't even, you could print off to the point that you hyperinflate. That's down the road. That can happen. Or your debt is so large that your interest expense is so large that you could tax your base that you're never able to pay it off. In other words, there will be a critical point to the debt where it will grow faster than what our economy can grow to ever actually finally pay off and honor those debts. And when that happens, no one's going to want to borrow, because then they're like buying tulips. If you don't know, look at the tulip bulb. Then it's just hot potato. That's like you don't want to be the last guy holding that debt. When that point is going to come, that takes a little bit of math, finding out, okay, what's the potential for the economy to grow? What's a potential tax base? How much can we get in total possible theoretical revenue? We're not at that point yet, but inevitably debts do matter because they have to be paid off. They have to. And not refinanced, not keep kicking the can down the road. Inevitably, the entity that borrows it has to make good on those debts. Otherwise, those debts have no value. And this addresses this cute little investment argument because it's like, no, it doesn't have value. That's not savings. That's a liability now. Right? So you really do need. And here's the other thing. If the government doesn't get money, government does a lot of good things. I know people. This is why debts do matter. Another reason is if government doesn't get the money, you don't have roads, you don't have defense. Not to mention all the parasite classes that depend on government cheese, they'll revolt. And without the National Guard, we're going to have to go kill them ourselves. Right? Because they'll come in, kill you for your money and all that. That's when the economy starts to collapse. So government finances, government debts really do fucking matter. Especially if you want law and order. All right? So that's very important. Second thing, all right. If debts don't matter, then why has every other country gone belly up? Oh, Roman Empire. Okay, they debased their currency, printed off more money. Back in the day, what printing off was. Didn't have paper currency. Argentina, Russia, Zimbabwe. Again, why isn't Zimbabwe the awesome economic global power that it is today? Greece. If debts don't matter, then why do all these countries go into the shitter when they default on their debt? I mean, they're still around, but everybody lost out on it. And this is Argentina, Mexico, and Russia. Especially when Russia was about, I think it had the economy the size of Tennessee. Okay, that's one of these little countries goes belly up. What if the U.S. goes belly up? Woo! We're a third of the global economy. That's another reason people don't want us to fail. So, all you have to do is look at, it's like, wait a minute, if debts don't matter, then why is there 99.9% of the historical government defaults followed by immense economic pain and agony? Well, it's because we have the world's reserve currency. Again, look it up. But debts do matter. And he's literally giving you the argument, but we're the United States. It could never happen here. Or this time it's different. Him and David Luria. Look it up. Mike, you know who David Luria is. Do you guys have coffee together? You sip your coffee? What lies should we tell today to the youth? So I said, all right, here's another logical way you could say it. Let's carry Mike's logic to the end. Why? Well, if debts don't matter, why should we have taxes at all? Let's just print off all the money. Let's just issue all this debt. We could have 0% taxes. Matter of fact, carry it to its even next logical end. Why don't we all just become trillionaires? The federal government issues, what is it? 300 million trillion dollars, whatever that is. I think quintillions? It issues 300 million trillion dollars. The reason it issues 300 million trillion is because there's 300 million people in the United States, and we'd all become trillionaires. And the Federal Reserve would just print off that money. And that's fine, because there's no consequences, right? There's no such thing as debt. It's just print it off. I mean, this logic, look, economists like to do this in their little world of academia. And they think they're so intelligent and smart in their little ivory towers. They never step outside into the real world. Economics is not a science. It really is not. It's a philosophy with numbers. And it's not a complicated one either. And they could get all complicated with central bank and machinations and confusion and, well, we're going to go over here and it's accounted for over there. In the end, all it is government printing off more money. That's all it is. That's all it is. Okay? And we can postpone a little bit. We can confuse people with a little bit of fog and mirrors. The rest of the world, thank God it's shittier than us because we can get away with this, which is pretty much robbery. But in the end, if you just use simple logic, you know, there's no such thing as a free lunch, equal and opposite reaction, equilibrium. It is very simple, a study or a philosophy to understand. And I'm just, well, America, he mocks and ridicules his critics as being stupid. Yeah, I think your adherents there, old Mikey boy, your acolytes are the ones who are really stupid. Because if they can't figure this out, that, hey, we're just printing off money, is it going to be a cost? Like my client, and they're not even going to bother to say, wait, let's look into this 94.2 trillion thing. They can't even go to that step and actually figure it out and uncover the rock. We really know who the ones who are stupid. Then all right, and here's going to be two reasons or two counter arguments they're going to say. Well, how come there's no inflation? I'm going to preemptively strike anyone down below who's going to come in from the Keynesian world. How come there's no inflation? See, gas isn't that expensive, oil isn't, milk isn't that expensive, lumber is like, okay, all right, yeah, there's no inflation in the CPI. There's no inflation. Oh, but did we look at the housing market? Oh, did we look at the student loans and tuition? Did we look at healthcare, education, the retirement bubble? See, it's cute what we use to measure inflation. What do you buy at the grocery store? What do you buy at the car lot? That's nice. That's very interesting. But no one looks at the prices of things that are the largest percentage of our expenditures. Your housing? Hey, millennials, did rents go up a little bit? Oh, did education go up a little bit? Where do you think this fucking government money goes? All right, quantitative easing. You print off the money to go finance the federal government. The federal government, what? Lends $1 trillion in the student loan market. Just dumps $1 trillion like a big ass shit. It dumps $1 trillion every year into the student loan market. And you kids wonder why tuition keeps going up. Because you got the market, the education market is flooded with $1 trillion of new money every year. Well, actually $500 billion, but Lord knows it's probably up to $1 trillion now. Housing, same thing. Interest rates are very low. There's all this money sloshing around. The economy's not growing, by the way. So banks are sitting on piles of cash. What do we do? We're going to lower interest rates. Well, now all of a sudden, you can borrow at 2.8% for a 15-year mortgage, 3.4% for a 30-year, and that drives prices up. Now I love driving past these developments. Starting at $500,000. I mean, my God, starting at $500,000? And then you kids wonder why your rent's so high because real estate prices have gone up? I mean, the money will find it someplace. Oh, okay, corporations can borrow very cheaply at low interest rates because of the Federal Reserve policy. They go and they buy up their stock price. They buy on their own stocks back. Stock prices go up because they're buying all trillions of dollars worth of stocks. Well, that's good because housing prices going up and stocks going up, that's a good sign of a healthy economy. Really? I look at GDP growth, and that hasn't been going up. You guys look at asset prices. Well, stocks and housing are going up, so it's good. Please go study economics, okay? I'm sorry, do you already own stocks or housing? I love millennials. They're just so stupid. Housing is going up, the stocks are going up. Wait, so your retirement is going to be even more expensive and your basic lodging is going to be more expensive? Your largest expense just went up more because you have to pay rent or a mortgage, right? And your stocks went up. That's good. So now you get to pay more for stocks? Did you look at the PE ratio? Never mind. So there is inflation. The money is finding its way into different asset classes. So, yeah, just shut the fuck up about that. You're wrong. Then why hasn't the economy collapsed? That's a great question. Why don't you look up my video, Why Hasn't the Economy Collapsed? And I'll post that down below. So we got that there. Now, for all that, let's go to Carl's friend. Carl's friend wrote, I've always maintained that this is nothing to worry about, but not for this guy's reasons. I think that with the dollar as strong as ever and national debt high as ever, almost not compared to after World War II, because there was a global war, but I'm thinking we're going to have any kind of growth like we did in post-war era either. What people think about the debt is wrong, and what most economists have been saying is correct. No, most economists have not been saying it. That once our national debt is gigantic and held in gigantic portions by foreign entities like China, Japan, United Korea, the economies that make their money off of the U.S. consumption, any drop in our economic value. What is economic value? What do you mean economic value? Any drop in our economic production? See, this is a non-economist talking. Is going to absolutely cripple those economies. They're in effect forced to hold their stake in America because if they cash it in, we may take a hit, but they'll take a death blow so brutal that their entire society and certainly those in power could collapse. So what your friend is arguing, it's good that we dishonestly lent these guys money that we could never pay back, that we got them by the balls, right? That if the bank lends you $1,000, that's your problem. If the bank lends you $10 million, that's their problem. Is that the dishonest? Is that good? So basically, we want to be an international financial pariah. We want to be a parasite on the global economy. We basically want to steal their money. It's good that we are thieves. That's what he's arguing. Hey, to do Mike again. Hey, bibbidi boppity boppity boopity, lasagna, meatball, prosecco, bibbidi boppity. Hey, give us your fucking money. Oh, bada boom, bada big, where'd it go? Stand there in the back of the line with your shirt and eat yourself a sandwich. Bibbidi boppity. Hey, oh, Mikey, hey. Watch. It's racist. He was discriminating against Italians. It would take a 50-plus year plan and a grand partnership between all those countries to survive something like that. Anyone here think you can get the Chinese, Japanese, and Koreans to agree on something like that with the Arabs and Russia and Europe? Ha ha. So, okay, your friend's goal is basically, we stole money from them. Congratulations. The debt is blown out of proportion. And while it needs to come down... No. Your buddy just said it didn't need to. It doesn't exist. I don't even know why we're having this conversation. Bibbidi-boppity. It could easily... I think it only happens if we really shift what we're spending our big dollars on in America. Shift our big dollars, like debt reduction? Or you mean military spending? Is that what big dollars are? What? See, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. All right, look. To my client, Carl. Why are you friends? Here's the problem. The real problem is with you. Okay? Why are you friends with somebody who advocates theft and is all right with theft? Also, why are you friends with somebody this intellectually dishonest? And why are you friends with somebody this stupid? I don't have friends... I can't say that. I don't have leftist friends because, for the most part, they're either dishonest or they're stupid. They're either devils or dupes. And I have no patience in my finite life to have either in my life. All right? They're also traitors. I've kicked people out of my life who voted for Obama because I don't like being stabbed in my back. It's like, get the fuck out of here. All right? Like, what? Like, yeah, well, you don't have me as a friend anymore. I have very rare communist friends because they're honest about it. And they have a almost religious, not zealous, but there's a religious moral belief that they have, and they're forthright about it. And I'm like, okay, but by and large, I do not have time for stupid people or people who resort to thievery, no matter how they rationalize it. And your friend here is not only ignorant, but he's also okay with theft. The real issue is, why are you friends with him? That's the question. Why are you wasting your time with him? He raises your blood pressure. He's not going to change. I mean, how old is he? I mean, he's over, he's over 20, I'd imagine. Why would you lessen your finite life? You know the song by William Shatner, You're Gonna Die? Listen to that song. Now ask yourself the question after listening to that song, do you ever want to waste your time with this, quote, friend of yours? Because I don't. I personally don't. All right? Thank God you paid me because I don't want to deal with wasting my time ever reading this guy's article. I want that money back. I want my time back because it was just a waste of time. It was dishonest. But that's the real question, Carl. Why are you wasting your time with this person? You're not going to convince him. You're not going to convince a religious person. You're not going to convince somebody this intellectually dishonest and this low of moral caliber to go and say, oh, yeah, you're right. I guess we are stealing money from the globe. Until he comes to that point, go find a girl with big tits and red hair. Go play some video games. Go do something else. Because your life is just too short. Hey, I hope that explained all of everything. Go to my website, Asshole Consulting. Visit me at CaptainCapitalism.blogspot.com. What else we got? Buy my books on Amazon.com. All that good shit. Links below. We'll talk to you kids later. Toodles.